Hello, this is H1. We're going to be running it back with another episode talking about chess knowledge, chess wisdom, chess understanding again. And today I want to talk about how to calculate faster. And I got to give you these themes correctly because I know most of your foundation isn't built correctly. There's cracks in your foundation and I want to smooth those over. It's going to take a lot of work though. Y'all learn some back practices and I need to fix that for you. All right. If you don't know what this thought process is, I'm glad I can teach you. If you do know what it is, and I gave you like a little bit of tips, then you're already in the right direction. You can just start being a grandmaster right after this video. Let's get into it though, right quick. All right, there we go. In this position, we are the black pieces. And as the black pieces, we need to figure out what's exactly wrong with our opponent's side. After knight takes on e5, they're losing. Before we get into the calculation part, we need to figure out the main themes of what our opponent's plans are. And then plus two, like, would most of you even think that this was a bad move? Knight takes on e5? Would most of you even think that? Like, be serious with me. Put it in the comments down below. Would you be looking for tactics in this position? So as we're trying to figure out our opponent's plan, what is their threat? That should be the first thing, the first question that comes in our mind when our opponent does a move here. And we need to go systematically through their strongest piece to their least strongest piece. First of all, their queen has no forcing moves, and by forcing moves I mean checks, captures, and threats. Their queen has no forcing moves in this position. They're nowhere near our king. They can't capture any pieces, and yeah, it's doing nothing. Now, their rook on the other hand, not their rook on f1. That rook on f1 doesn't have any forcing moves, but that rook on a1 is threatening our rook on a8. So we're gonna have to consider this rook capture when we're calculating all the time. Their bishops, they don't have any major threats, no major checks in the position, no major captures, even though this bishop is the only active bishop that white has, which is indirectly attacking the bishop on g7 and this knight on f6. Now, the knight on the other hand, this knight is threatening to capture this knight on c6 and is putting pressure on this pawn on f7. Plus, as it's putting pressure on this pawn on f7, it could be threatening the queen on d8. This knight could move to some other square to be threatening a piece too. I don't know. These knights are more forward, more powerful, and they capture this pawn not only to get a free pawn, but to exchange pieces and eventually win the game. Because if they can capture that pawn for free, they're up, what is that? How many pawns? They're up one pawn if they can capture that pawn for free. There's a few problems with their position though. And these are the things that you have to be in tune when you're thinking about calculation or like spotting it. First of all, you have to spot when your opponent does a bad move. And you need to know that, like, instinctively. You need to be searching for horrible moves that your opponent could possibly do. Because if you don't, you're gonna miss out on your opportunities. And secondly, some things that you gotta know. And combinations is really good to know, like certain ones. For example, our queen, it doesn't have any checks. It doesn't have any captures, but it does have a lot of threats in the position. Our queen can threaten this knight with going to b6. It could be threatening this knight with going to e5 here. This queen will not capture this pawn, but potentially that's something that we have to think about. And not only would this queen be threatening this knight if it went to d5 here, but it will be behind this bishop, which would be indirectly threatening checkmate. If this knight wasn't here, if we had three good moves here, queen d5, knight takes, queen takes on g2 would be our three moves. The quickest way to checkmate in this chess position. And that's something we gotta think about, these future checkmating possibilities. One thing, if you want to get faster at your calculation, is by doing checkmate in 3 puzzles, is by doing checkmate in 2, checkmate in 1, and realizing the different ways how you can checkmate your opponent in a chess game. There's not that many. There's a good amount, of course, but it's not that many. It's not like 100. It's a few. Queen d5 is a move that we have to think about. Our rook on a8 can take this rook on a1 in this position. Our rook on f8 isn't doing anything. It's garbage. We don't have to think about that piece. Our bishops isn't doing anything. Not yet, at least. and we don't got to think about it. Our bishop on g7 is indirectly attacking their bishop on b2 and their rook on a1. And this bishop on b7 is going to be a helping hand in this position because, like I said before, queen d5 threatens checkmate on g2 if we can get this, like these moves out of here. Okay? Now, our knights, on the other hand, there's a lot of tension, just like it was a lot of tension with their knight. Our knight can capture this knight on e5, and we're gonna have to think about all these type of positions where that can happen. And we're gonna have to start calculating. First of all, let's calculate the queen moves here. Queen b6 doesn't really do anything. You know, they're just gonna capture our pieces, put their knight on a good square. They can capture rooks. They're gonna do massive trades where it's really not even gonna matter. After queen b6, knight takes on c6, queen takes on c6. That's probably not the best move to do at that present moment. But after queen b6, our opponent could just, what could they do? They could do like knight to d6 there in that position. They could do knight to d6 in that position, which is fine. It's cool. Queen b6, knight d6, and their position is pretty solid. And after knight d6, they're going to capture our famous bishop on b7. There's like, what's the threat there? There's no threats on our side anymore, and our opponent would be winning. If we do queen d5 too fast, we are gonna lose out on a tactic. We're gonna lose out on a crucial tactic. And especially after queen d5, there's this fork that's gonna be happening in this position too. Like that knight is attacking our d5 queen. So maybe like rook captures first, rook captures, knight c7, that's a fork. That's one thing that we have to think about. It's not forcing enough. When we're thinking about forcing moves, it has to be super forcing, and it goes from this order. It goes from checks, captures, and threats, and that's why the first move has to be knight takes on e5. Knight takes on e5. And one good indicator of a tactic being around too, just to let y'all know, is when our opponent has a loose piece out in the open, just waiting to be forked by some other threat or tactic. If there's any loose pieces, just be like, oh snap, that's a spidey sense. There should be something out there. Knight takes on e5. Bishop takes on e5. And we have a few threats here. We got a few things that we have to calculate. Rook takes on a1. And actually, they could have did that first. They could have did rook takes on a8 first, but we would have just captured with the bishop. I'll go deeper into that. I'll go deeper into that after we get done with the main calculation. Bishop takes on e5. And now what did I say about all of our threats? We have this option of capturing this rook on a1 first, or we can do the massive idea of queen d5. Whenever we threaten checkmate, the opponent has to respond. Whenever we threaten checkmate, the opponent has to respond because they're in danger. Queen d5 in danger. But they do have a good defense though. And one of the good defense that we have to consider in this position was bishop to f3. Bishop to f3 is a good defense. If they do f3, we just capture their bishop and we're up a piece. We gotta figure out our opponent's forcing moves with our forcing moves. And that's usually how calculation in chess works. And once you get faster at this, you gotta do this in rapid speeds, of course. But you gotta get the foundation first. If you don't got the foundation, how can you figure out the best move within like 5 minutes? After bishop to f3, queen takes on e5, bishop takes on b7, and you might be thinking, oh snap, we're lost. What's going on here? Like, what's going on? We just gave away a piece, and now their rook is attacking our rook on a8, and like if it was their move, then it would be losing. Like, should we capture their rook, and then they do queen takes on a1, threaten the queen trade? Should we do that? No. Then if we do that, all of this work just fails. So we have to find this extra move in this position that makes everything worth it. What is this extra move that makes everything worth it? And all these moves, it took every single piece on black side to make this work. And this is why calculation is really hard. Like, it's not just an easy thing to calculate fast, but if you don't know the basis of calculating, then of course you wouldn't. And one of the forcing moves that you have to consider, of course, we could do queen takes on a1, queen takes on h2. That, I mean, shoot, like queen takes on h2 is something. King takes on h2, we would just lose a queen. But if we had an extra piece on the king side, that might actually be a massive threat. And then you start wondering, all right, well, let's revisit all the pieces again. Rook trade doesn't really mean anything. Queen trade really doesn't mean anything. Bishop can't really do anything. But what if this knight right here moves to g4? What if this knight moves to g4? Very interesting, because this knight moving to g4 threatens his checkmate. Queen takes on h2. And that's not an easy checkmate to defend. And y'all might be thinking, okay, what's the main purpose of moving the knight to g4 when queen could just take on g4? Well, now, don't forget, the last piece that we've always been analyzing is this rook tension right here. And with this knight off of this diagonal, what piece is indirectly attacking the rook too? This bishop. And so rook takes on a1 is a move. And rook can't even take back because queen takes on a1, queen d1, queen takes on d1, and that would be checkmate. In this position, we are winning. We're winning. There's no doubt about it. There's no way for them to get out of it. Just count the pieces here. we got an extra. We literally have an extra rook. We literally have an extra rook than our opponent. And so we just go on to win this. Now, there was one variation that I wanted to go back over here, because they didn't really have to capture the bishop immediately. Let's go back to serious mode. All right, knight takes on e5. They didn't have to capture the knight immediately first. We would have to check what happens after rook captures on a8. Rook captures on a8. And we got two moves here. Bishop takes on a8 or queen takes on a8. Got two moves. Let me just do it here. Okay, after rook takes on a8, bishop takes on a8 is the best move. They both work, but bishop takes on a8 works even better because bishop takes on e5, and we still have this move queen d5. And after bishop to f3, queen takes on e5, bishop takes on a8. The previous variation, the bishop wasn't defended because it was on b7. But now the bishop is defended. We get to recapture that bishop back with the rook. And yeah, we're up a bishop. We're up a whole piece again. And so even with that tweak of the variations, it still worked out in our favor since we calculated everything efficiently. And of course, we shouldn't be like touching the pieces while we're calculating, but I just wanted to make this like easier for beginner people who's watching this video. And then the last thing you should do before touching the pieces, making this your final move, is blunder checking. Oh my goodness, all you beginners need to blunder check, intermediate players too. If you're not blunder checking, then you're going to lose by like, let's say you didn't calculate that and then you did the wrong move. Honestly, if you're doing a puzzle and you didn't calculate each and every line, and they did a line that you didn't look at, you most likely should just fail in that puzzle, because that's the only way how you're gonna learn. You're not gonna learn from the from the lines that you missed. You're not gonna learn. That should be a fail, because in a real game, you only have that one option, that one opportunity to win. And if you don't, then that's the game. That's up. We don't want to waste the opportunity. Let's say you have a winning position against Magnus Carlsen, and then you butchered it because you didn't look at that one line that would have taken you an extra second to look at. Anyway, hopefully this was beneficial. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for listening. Keep on fighting to the end, staying focused, chess, and in real life too. Peace.